I'm excited to welcome Seth King to the podcast. Seth has a very simple bio. He enjoys reading, writing, traveling, and spending time with his family. His latest book is the second in the Daddy Issues series entitled Who's Your Daddy? Welcome, Seth.
Thank you for having me.
Who do you have there with you? For those who are on the video, anyway.
She's kind of my daughter, so whatever I do, she does. So she's just here with me.
Excellent. She may have some answers to some of these questions then.
Hopefully.
So tell us about this new book, Who's Your Daddy, and the Daddy Issues series in general.
The Nexus is a guy falls in love with his mom's ex-husband. It came about from a bunch of different things, one of which happened to be an adult film that I saw. I was sort of intrigued by the plot. But also a guy who, I'm 28, and a guy I was talking to was, I think, 43. And there were a lot of different sort of things that came up, questions he had, and sort of differences that we had. And so those two things sort of came together and gave birth to Daddy Issues. And the sequel was sort of the characters just didn't stop talking in my head. Call it schizophrenia, call it being an author, call it whatever you want, but they sort of become your friend and they sort of live on your shoulder. And they wouldn't stop talking, so I continued it. And that's basically what the sequel is.
Do you see more coming in that series?
With any of my books, really. Once I write them, once you spend that much time, it sounds pretentious, but once you spend that much time inside their minds and once you spend that much time, like weeks or months with people, characters, but I think of them as people, they live in your head forever. So with Honesty or with Straight or with any of my books or series, you can always sort of go back into that mode and turn it on and find out where they are and what they're doing. And I know it sounds crazy and it sounds just like mumbo jumbo author nonsense, but with any of my books or characters, really, they have a shelf life. Like they live inside of my head. And like I was thinking about Honesty the other day and thinking about what he was doing, and I could write that right now. It's just a matter of logistics and telling my brain to shut up because I have so many ideas and, there's too many. But yeah, any sequel is kind of the same. It's just the voices don't stop.
How much do you plan kind of in advance what you're writing, or is it more like spur of the moment, I'm going to write this now?
I remember when I was doing schoolwork, my teachers would come to my desk and tell me, Seth, you can't do that. You can't jump around this way. You can't just start writing without a plan. It doesn't work with anyone. It's not going to work with you. You have to draft. You have to plan. I remember with math problems, I would jump from the first to last and in the middle. I've always been that way. I don't know why it works, but it works somehow. I sit down at my desk and open up a file and start writing. And I don't know. That's just how I am. I'm a very chaotic thinker, like pinball machine, basically. So if I tried to outline, I don't even think it would work because that's not how I've ever been successful. Mm-hmm. There's no rhythm. There's no method to anything.
And I've heard of other, hardcore so-called pantsers who that's the only way they can go. And I kind of envy that because it means you're just kind of getting the story as it just flows out of you.
Well, literally, yeah. Literally, like I remember Straight, the character came to me. I think I was washing my hands right over there, and people just started talking and things started happening. And sometimes it's like that. It just starts. I don't know. Really, like I said, it sounds crazy, but it really is like it just falls into your head sometimes. I remember I wrote that book in 19 days, and it's usually not like that. It's usually harder. But that book came to me like somebody was whispering in my ear.
Oh, I wish it was always that easy, don't you?
Oh, it's not always. Trust me, right now it's not so easy.
Now, I think most people know you or got introduced to you with 2016's Honesty, which is really such an emotional roller coaster. Was that, I know there's autobiographical elements to that. Was that cathartic to write it or difficult to write?
It was cathartic in the moment because I was writing out what was actually happening. I was in love with a guy whose family was very religious and literally would not let him be gay. They told him that they found a text message from me. It was my boyfriend of like 2 years. And they told him, you are not gay. That's not a real thing. Gay people are confused. You need to meet the right girl. And this guy, Seth, has somehow tricked you into thinking that you like guys when you don't. So that's what I was dealing with while I was writing that book. And also, while I was writing it, nobody in the world knew that I was dating a guy. We were both closeted and going around as friends. So there were so many elements in it. When I read it now, it's like literally just a cry straight from my soul. Like I can sense so much anguish and everything in it. But that book was how I came out to everyone. But when I wrote that book, my own parents didn't know that I was dating a guy. And that when I released it on release day, there was an article related to it, but that's how I came out. So looking back at it, it's like, oh my God, it's a rush of emotion, just like straight up like heroin in your veins emotion. So it's crazy for me to even pick up the book now.
That's brave to have that be the coming.
You would say brave. Looking back, I think it's just insanity because I didn't know. I'm from a very conservative town. I know a lot of people aren't, but I happen to be. 87% of my county is registered Republican, and not that that means anything, but it does here. But it's insane looking back. Like I lost siblings, I lost immediate family members forever because of coming out and because of that book. One of my brothers, we've barely spoken since then because I came out in such a public way. But in the back of my mind, I knew if I do this, my life will change forever. Like anyone coming out.
Mm-hmm.
When people come out, they know that you can't go back from that. And some people will drop you. And it's like, it opened my life up and I would never go back and change it. But at the same time, releasing that book changed a lot of things for me. And my brother I've had 5 conversations with him in the 3 years since it came out. So people say it gets better, and it does in a lot of ways, but I like to say it gets different because you can never sort of forecast or foresee what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that's another reason why that book is so special to me because it represents such a shift in my life. It literally, from one day to the next day, my life changed.
And I think it's unfortunately, still a relevant story today for some of the younger audience. I
think it always will be. Yeah. Acceptance. Not to interrupt you, like I keep doing. Sorry, but I just like to talk. But I think acceptance is such a regional, case-by-case, town-by-town, state-by-state thing. A lot of people like to say, oh, I live in New York and it's fine here. And it is, and that's great. But there are so many people in different places that don't have that and aren't like that. In my town, I went to a school, there were 600 people in my grade, and there was one openly gay student out of 600. I remember 2 girls were walking through the hallway holding hands. They were dating. They identified as bisexual, and our principal called their parents and told them to stop because it was creating such a rush. Like, it's crazy to think that was even only 10 years ago. I graduated 10 years ago this week in 2008. But it's crazy to think that even 10 years ago this was happening, you know? So, yeah, that was a tangent, but it's interesting just how specific everything is. There's no one-size-fits-all thing to acceptance.
Well, for sure. And I mean, a lot of it can be regional, but even in New York, where it's safe to be out, you could certainly have family who makes it not safe.
Totally.
So, and that's why I think that book, even though it's rough, and as I told you before we recorded, and I'll actually review it before we get into the interview portion and the actual show. But I mean, it's both. It's a important book to read, and it's a good book to read. But man, it's tough to read. Before
I was a writer, I was just a book lover in general, a reader, and I never I never cared about happiness in my books. Like, I loved tearjerkers and weepies. Like, so when I read a book, I never really was like, oh, I wonder if it's HEA. Not that you are, but in my own personal life, like, I kind of like that. Like, I just read Night about I think Auschwitz, and movies like Titanic, or like. I have a thing for tragedy. I just watched a Amy Winehouse documentary about her sort of self-destruction, and I'm fascinated by that. Like, the fairy tale is great for me, but I'm fascinated by when the fairy tale falls apart and where it all goes wrong. So,
and I'm the same way. I don't need every book to finish in the HEA or an HFN. Tell me a good story.
Oh, I know what you mean, though. Honesty is brutal because it is. I feel like it's real, and I feel like I've had a lot of gay people specifically just email me and be like, I felt this, like, I lived this. This is my life, So I get it. It's brutal. It's not fun.
What got you started as a writer?
Um, I don't remember because I have been doing it since I knew what writing was. I remember when I was 3 or 4. My mom remembers we were riding home from school from pre-K or whatever it was, and I looked at her and I said, "I'm going to be an author one day." And she sort of remembers when I said it. She just looked at me and said, like, "Okay, whatever." And but from then on, it was just sort of almost an obsession. It was relentless. Just this is what I wanted, and this is there are a lot of wrong turns and stuff, but I don't know how, but I just always knew because my what I got my purest joy from was telling a story and sort of just taking people from point A to point B and entertaining them and just making them feel things. Whether it was telling a joke or writing a story or telling a story in front of the class, I just liked to tell stories. And I think that's sort of where it came from. And combined with the love of books, and it all just came together.
That's awesome. I like that it goes back that far.
Since I can remember, yeah. My mom told me, my parents thought something was wrong with me because it was my only pursuit. Like my grandpa bought me an iMac, one of those really old, ugly, like the iMac computers with the green panels and the white panels that were like shaped like an egg.
Yep.
Anyway, grandpa bought one of those for me at a garage sale, and I spent my whole 6th grade summer writing in my bedroom, writing a memoir about my family. I'm one of 18 children. And it was called Mixed Blessings. I'm sure it was terrible, but I didn't even really have much of a childhood because I always wanted this. So it's crazy, but I just knew.
Well, to do a memoir in 6th grade, that's
well, it was mostly about because everyone would ask me. They didn't care about me. They didn't care about. They wouldn't ask me about my name. They wouldn't say how are you. They would say you're the kid with the family. So I knew that I sort of wanted to explain it myself because. I was one of 18 kids. They were adopted from 8 different countries around the world. And since that was what I was known for, that's all anyone cared about, I just started writing about it.
That's definitely...
I don't even want to see it right now. It's probably terrible.
But do you still have it on a floppy disk? That's the important question.
I have it printed out.
Printed out works too. That way you've at least got it.
Yeah.
You have writing before Honesty. What were those books?
One of my biggest books was before that, actually, was about the death of my older brother. But the biggest difference is just that they were hetero. I had never, because I dated women when I was a teenager, in early 20s. But Honesty was the first time that I guess, was honest or just was writing about, was also the first guy I dated. It was just the first time I explored that in my books, my writing.
Mm-hmm. What turned the corner for you to become a published writer? When were you like, this is the thing I want to put out into the world finally?
I don't remember. Like I said, I just knew what I wanted, and I just never had another plan. I remember sort of all my friends were going off to college and starting their lives and getting married and getting jobs at, corporations or sort of the A, B, and C plan. And I remember a few times just thinking, this has to work out. I don't have another option. So I got really, really serious when I was about 23, 24, 25, and got here.
And you're a full-time writer these days, right?
Yes.
That's awesome.
More than full-time. I say full life because it doesn't end. Yeah.
That's awesome. Congratulations on that, because that's very cool. Who are some of your inspirations for your writing?
My inspiration, I've always studied Ernest Hemingway's writing because I can get very wordy, if you didn't notice. He has a very pared down, simple way of writing that if I meet him halfway, that's good for me because I cut out a lot of the fluff. Right now I'm reading the new David Sedaris. He's one of my all-time favorite writers. He's always been openly gay and openly what he is, and I just think he's a genius. I read his books over and over again. Amy Poole, the woman who wrote Brokeback Mountain, is one of my favorite writers also. She writes short stories. Virginia Highsmith, who wrote The Price of Salt, she's one of my favorite queer works of fiction. She wrote it in the 50s when it was illegal to write gay narratives. It was like you would get censored. So she wrote it under a pseudonym. and nobody even knew she wrote it until she died in the 90s. It was remade into that movie Carol with Cate Blanchett. Mm-hmm. But that's one of my favorite books ever, and it's just such a good chronicle of like that first obsessive gay love that you have, which I'm sure everyone has had. So yeah, I usually look back in history for people who wrote before it was okay. Like I said, like a lot of these people were writing when it was literally illegal. So I don't know. And I'm still learning the gay classics. I haven't read The Velvet Rage. I'm still learning the gay because I was afraid until a few years ago I would not have bought a gay book in a bookstore because I was afraid. So I'm still catching up on that. I'm still learning.
And there's a lot of good stuff out there for sure to catch up on. What do you think the trademark of a Seth King book is?
Most people would probably say tears, but what I like to do is just take people on a ride. I like my favorite movies are sort of big epics, like I said, Titanic, or stories where you feel everything, where you might cry and then you're thrilled and you're on the edge of your seat and you learn something. And I like to sort of run the gamut of everything. So you know what I mean? Those are the books I read in my spare time, and that's what I want to do to people. I want to take them out of their lives, and also when they leave the book, I want them to just leave maybe a little bit different, or learning something, or just having had an experience.
Mm-hmm. And I certainly have had the kind of a breadth of some of your writing, because before I read Honesty, I picked up that novella Twinkle Toes, which is a totally different tone, kind of like Adam Rippon on steroids, if you will.
My fan fiction, because I'm obsessed with him, yeah.
And kind of that over-the-topness. And it was a totally delightful, funny little kind of just a whimsical read to have, especially after the Olympics.
Thank you, first of all. But that's another thing. A lot of authors feel sort of closed in by the genre they choose. I'm not ever going to be like that, because number one, I don't want to ever lose the joy of writing. Sitting down, I was going to say picking up your pen, but it's not picking up your pen. I never want to lose the joy of opening up a Word file and just writing. I want to always remember and know how happy it makes me, and I never want to lose that. So if an idea comes into my head, I'll write it and I'll enjoy it, and I won't think about, I wonder what market this will hit, or if my readers who like this book will like that book, or at the end of the day, I want to keep the process joyful, and I want to write what makes me happy. So I definitely switch around and pinball around, but most of all it's because I want to keep my brain sharp, number one, and also I like everything. Like when I'm not writing, I'll watch Real Housewives, and then I'll listen to a podcast about like neuroscience, or not that I'm an intellectual, but I like different things, and I like to keep my mind sort of fresh and open to new things. So yeah, right now I'm writing a super depressing thing about, well, I was suicidal at one point. I've been open about that. I'm writing sort of something drawn from that, and I'm also writing a totally like happy, dishy beach read. So I think it's important for any artistically minded person to write what you want to write. Write what makes you happy, and keep up the joy in it, because I never want to sit down at my desk and think like, oh, not again, like I like enjoying my job.
Yeah, I think that would certainly come across in the writing too, if it was like, this is the painful book to
pull. No, totally. People can tell, people can tell if you're writing about something that you don't care about. If you don't have skin in the game, if I sat there and write about stuff that I did not give a damn about, you would know it. Whoever's reading would know it.
I think you just mentioned, if I heard right, you're doing two things at once that are very opposite. Do you often have more than one thing kind of in progress?
Oh, I always am. Yeah, I always am. I have dozens of projects in my hard drives that are half completed, full completed, things that maybe don't make sense with my career now. I have an entire book saved away that I was looking at the other day about a woman who, it was written when I found out my boyfriend was cheating on me. And it's about a female writer who finds out her husband's cheating on her and just loses her mind and like starts to ruin his life. It's called Resentment. But I'm always writing, and some things don't make sense at one time, so I put it away. But yeah, my brain doesn't stop, and it's kind of a problem, but not a problem, if you know what I mean.
It's good that the ideas keep coming, and I'm always impressed with somebody who can kind of pop around a project like that. I'm sadly one of those people who has to finish the project I'm on for the most part.
Well, you have a personal life, and I don't, so it's a trade-off.
I don't know. I think I'd be that way even if I didn't have the personal life. I think it's the way I'm wired, unfortunately. But so you are headed to GRL this year for the very first time.
I am, yeah, up in Virginia. I'm excited.
What got you into coming this year?
Well, I've done book signings since the beginning. I find that I'm really touched to sort of meeting people in real life is different from social media interaction. Both are great, but to meet people in real life and see that they enjoy your books and that they might have been touched by your books or something, it's a different level of interaction, and it's very energizing. Like I keep clothes hanging in my closet, like certain outfits from certain book signings, just because I feel like I just like to remember it and I like to have mementos. But yeah, so I've always done book signings, and this one was just a book signing that fit into the whole gay crowd. So yeah, I'm excited.
That would be cool. It's going to be fun to meet you there, kind of in person, now that we've had the cyber introduction.
Yeah, I'll buy you a drink just for talking your ear off.
That's part of the fun of the whole podcast thing, is talking the ear off. What's coming up next for you? As you pop around all these books, do you know kind of what's coming out next that folks can look forward to?
Well, I know that I've hit a bumpy few weeks in my own life, so I really want to write happy stuff right now, focus on happy stuff. I'm doing a series based in my hometown called Jack's Beach. It's a perfect little beachy ocean town in Florida, and I'm basing a new series off of like a bunch of gays that I know and just a bunch of stories that I have. But it's all set here, and it's very like kind of upbeat and sort of what you want a summer read to be. You know, you don't want to sit down and read about death in the summer, so they're basically designed to be like dishy and fun and maybe a little bit campy and just entertainment. So that's my next thing. I'm very dragged down if I'm writing emotional stuff. I'm very affected by it mentally. So I want to write some happy, slutty stuff.
Happy and slutty. That's a good mix.
In combination.
Any idea when we might see those come out?
Well, I just had to pay a lot of money for this little girl to get dealt with at the vet, so probably soon.
Sorry, it's sad that is the reason they're coming soon, but something good to look forward to. And hopefully she's doing well. I've seen some of that information on
she's
Facebook.
Fine now. Yeah, she's fine now. She's my fag head, so.
She likes being in Daddy's lap.
Yeah, she does.
For the people who are not on the video, you're missing this dog look lovingly up at Seth as he pets her head. It's adorable.
Oh no, she just likes attention. She knows she's on camera now. That's the bottom line is that she knows she's being seen and she loves it, and she's like her dad. She wants to be seen.
What's the best way for people to keep up with you online so they can check out all your new books and the ones you've already got?
I post way too much on Facebook. Probably Facebook. I don't post on Instagram. I find that it's boring. And I like Twitter a little bit. All I do is kind of attack Donald Trump on there. But basically any social media.
Perfect. We will give people links to your website and your social media and to all the books that we've talked about too, so people can check those out if they haven't already.
Sweet.
Seth, thanks so much for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you in October at GRL.
Thank you very much for having me. I'll be there, and I'm excited, and hopefully I will meet a lot of people who I only know from social media. I'm excited about that.